Are you ready to unmute your power? Are you sick and tired of being told to shut up? Welcome to Something to Say with me, Shae, because silence is no longer an option. This is not just a podcast, it's a revolution. This is for the women who are done tolerating mediocrity, done biting their tongues, and done playing small. With bold truths and unfiltered insights, I'll help you rip off that proverbial muzzle, put your stake in the ground, and take back the power you were told to suppress. You were never meant to be silent. The world is waiting to hear your voice. It's time to speak up, and speaking up starts now. Maybe you've been called weird, or too much, too loud, too deep, too you. I've spent my whole life feeling weird or different than most people, but maybe that wasn't a curse. Maybe that was the call. Welcome to Something to Say with me, Shae. Today, I'm not bringing on a guest. I'm just bringing my truth, my story. If you've ever wondered, who the hell does she think she is? Well, turn me all the way up because I'm about to tell you who I am and how I got where I am, a place of inner peace rooted in my being and confidence that comes from knowing who I really am, despite everything and everyone that tried to hold me back. Today, I have something to say, and if you've ever felt weird or different or held back or held down, then you might want to hear what I have to say. So let's start with the big question. Who do I think I am? To speak for women who feel broken, silenced, too far gone. Who am I to speak to the women still stuck in the fog of fear, still defining themselves by someone else's opinion? The truth, I don't speak for you. I speak as you. And that difference matters. Because everything I say today, I have lived. Every scar I'll talk about, I've earned. And every truth that I carry, I had to claw my way to find. And maybe you're wondering, how did she get here? How did I go from that girl hiding in plain sight, unsure of herself, needing validation of her worth from others, to the woman sitting behind this mic with the fire in her chest, unapologetically spitting truth? Well, it started in the house where my silence was born. I wasn't raised, I was trained to be quiet, to disappear, to not make waves. My father was an unpredictable man, like a grenade with no pin. You never knew when it was going to blow. And in that kind of home, you don't learn how to speak. You learn how to scan. You learn how to vanish, how to survive. That conditioning doesn't leave quietly. It embeds itself in your nervous system, and you carry it into every room, every relationship, and every decision you make. But even as a little girl, there were flashes, moments where I spoke up anyway, where I risked everything for a shred of truth. Like the time my father was beating my mother in the kitchen. I remember it like it was yesterday. At that time, my mother was literally everything to me, and seeing her be punched over and over by my father killed me inside. My two siblings and I were crying and yelling for my father to stop, but his rage took him to a different realm. I don't even think he hurt us. And as I watched his fist raise and pound her head over and over, I remember thinking, is today the day I'm going to see my father murder my mother? And I clearly remember this, and I knew I could not live with that. I could not stand the thought of that. I knew I wouldn't survive seeing my mother killed, that I would lose my mind, whatever that meant to a 5-year-old. So in that moment, I decided if someone was going to die that day, it was going to be me. I was 4 or 5 years old, the youngest of 3 and the smallest by far. But I jumped on my father's back and I started hitting him in the back of the head, screaming for him to stop. I knew there was a chance, a really good chance, that my father would turn his rage on me and that I would be on the receiving end of those blows. But I also knew that I would rather die trying to save my mother than watch him murder her. I used to think those were signs of rebellion. Now I know those were sparks of my true self, of who I really am. Someone who would die to save someone she loves. someone who stands up for love and kindness, no matter the cost. As I grew up, I swore I wouldn't become my parents. Yes, my mother was a victim of domestic abuse, and that is not okay. She also made mistakes, as all parents do. I had decided early on that if I ever have kids, I would not be the parents they were. And I wasn't. And I am a great mom, and I'm proud of that. But they say if you don't become your parents, you marry them. And that's exactly what I did. Same control, just in a different costume. It didn't look like abuse to the outside world. It looked like concern. He would say things like, you shouldn't take college classes. I wouldn't want you to fail. Or you're being dramatic. Our marriage problems aren't that bad. What I didn't realize until much later is this. Silencing isn't always loud or obvious. Sometimes it comes dressed in love. We say we stay because we love our abuser. We stay because we're afraid to leave. We stay because of money or because of the kids. But staying is self-sacrifice. But here's the truth. Self-sacrifice is not noble. There's no prize for that. There's not even appreciation for that. Sacrificing yourself as a noble act is an illusion and a lie that women have been told and sold. But once you realize that your nobility only gets you more self-sacrifice and nothing more, that fog starts to lift, and you will realize that you've built a life trying not to upset anyone, trying to keep the peace. But peace at any cost is no peace at all. When you get to this awareness, you start to ask the dangerous questions. Questions like, who would I be if I stopped performing? Healing isn't becoming someone new. It's unbecoming all the things you are not, all the things you never were. I did not know that I was smart, that I was actually intelligent until I was nearly 40 years old. My father called me dumb. My teachers called me stupid because traditional education isn't how I learn. And so I struggled in school and I believed I was dumb. Who would I be today if someone, anyone, had seen me and told me that I was actually smart? If I could learn in the way that works for me, what would I be today? I didn't feel safe being seen until I was 50 because I learned that people looking at me meant something bad was about to happen. And my nervous system would literally shut down. So I stayed in the background, cheering for everyone else for 50 fucking years. Who would I be if I had felt safe being seen? If my wings had not been stolen so young? And up until this year, I have never felt a love that didn't ask me to shrink, perform, or prove. And I'll tell you, learning how to receive that kind of love, the love that doesn't require shrinking, that is graduate level soul work. And admittedly, I am still a student learning how to receive that kind of love and how to trust that it's actually real. Because the world convinced me otherwise. It told me that people weren't safe. It told me that my bigness was dangerous, that visibility was risky, that power in a woman should come with a warning label. But I know better now. I had an amazing experience last year after my father died. And if you heard my first episode of Something to Say, you've already heard this story, but I kind of botched it. So I want to tell it again. And tomorrow marks the 1-year anniversary of my father's death. So I felt it was fitting to share this again. A few days after my father passed, he came to me in a meditation. Meditation is something I do regularly. And back then I was doing it daily. I need to get back to that. As soon as I sat down and closed my eyes, my father came to me. He appeared, and I became a little girl again, 4 or 5 years old. He sat down on the floor, cross-legged, eye to eye with me, which is something he never did in real life. And he apologized, also something he never did in real life. And he said, "I'm sorry I stole your wings." And then he opened his palm and inside was a white butterfly. That butterfly went from his hand to my right shoulder, and in that instant became my wings. And I grew. I was enormous and radiant and uncontainable. And he shrank to the size of a fairy. And then a photo flashed before my eyes for just a millisecond. A photo I don't really remember, but all I saw was wearing pink and we were holding hands. So I was heading back to my hometown for his funeral and to clean out his home. And I knew if I found that photo there, it would confirm that this was real, that it was not my imagination. And sure enough, I found that photo, and not just one, but several copies of it. And not only did I find the photo, but a white butterfly showed up almost every day while I cleaned out his house. And ever since then, I continue to see a white butterfly frequently, to which I say, "Hi, Dad." That wasn't a dream or an illusion. That was restoration, a reckoning. I got my wings back and the apology I wanted my whole life. And even though I got my wings back, I've spent this past year with those wings folded behind me, waiting for something big to happen. Because I don't know how to use them. I didn't know how to fly. My wings have been taken from me since I was 4 or 5. So how could I possibly know how to use them? And then yesterday, while I was in a meeting unrelated to any of this, I felt something slide off my body. I looked down thinking it was a blanket, but I didn't have a blanket on. It was energy peeling away like silk. It was layers of untruth falling away. And I instantly had an image of a cocoon falling away. I had an inner knowing, which is one of my gifts. And it said, "Your wings are ready." And then I got chills, which is my confirmation sign from spirit. I want that kind of moment for you too. That peeling off moment where you remember you've had wings all along. They were just buried under other people's opinions and expectations. But your wings are there, and they are ready whenever you are. I don't speak to impress. I speak to impact, to influence, to rock worlds that have been stagnant. I speak as the woman who gets talked over at meetings, who's told to smile more, who gets punished for her power and ignored for her softness. I speak as the one who got too ambitious, too independent, or too successful to keep the people around her comfortable. I speak because I've lived through the burn, and I refuse to let that fire be wasted. You want proof that your weirdness is your superpower? Well, let's talk about some women who wore theirs like armor, even when the world tried to call it a flaw. Have you ever watched Mare of Easttown? There's a scene where Mare, played by Kate Winslet, finally admits that she's been numbing her grief and stuffing it into silence. And she finally breaks, not in weakness, in release. That is what healing looks like. It's messy, but it's real. Or the Queen's Gambit, Beth Harmon, was orphaned, abused, and addicted. But she was also a genius. She was too weird, too brilliant, and too intense, though, for the men around her. But in the end, what made her different made her undefeatable. These women, fictional or not, tell the same story. When a woman stops contorting herself to be palatable, she becomes unstoppable. She rediscovers the real her, not because she's perfect, because she's honest. And that honesty requires one thing above all, a deep relationship with your own soul, with a higher power than you. Whatever you call that, God, source, spirit, I'm not here to push religion. I don't even believe in religion. But I'd be lying if I didn't say that I know something higher and more powerful than me exists, because I've experienced it. The story of my dad coming to me in meditation is one story of hundreds I have experienced in my life. So let me share another one. A life-changing, miraculous moment that I've never heard anyone talk or tell a story like this one. And some of you may want to stop listening at the mention of Jesus, but hear me out because this is real, okay? As a last-ditch effort to save my marriage, I decided to convert to Catholicism. My husband was Catholic. We'd baptized our children as Catholic, and it just seemed like maybe I should be too. Don't ask me why I thought that would matter or was the answer, because again, I don't believe in organized religion, but I do believe in God and Jesus and desperately sought their help in saving my marriage. So after months of the classes, it was finally the day to be confirmed and baptized by the priest. My husband and kids, mom, and my stepdad were there to watch this. As I was standing at the altar with about 50 other adults who were converting, and imagine this big half circle stage, and enough people were converting to stand shoulder to shoulder all the way around us. That's how many people were there. And then the church was packed with family and friends there to witness this. The priest approached the man to my right, which meant that I would be second to be confirmed. And I watched the priest dip his thumb in the oil and then make a cross on the man's forehead while he said a prayer. And I was like, okay, well, now I know what to expect. And I was less nervous because I was always afraid I would do or say something stupid or not do or say something I was supposed to. And so I was relieved to see I didn't really have to do anything. The priest approached me and he dipped his thumb in the oil, then made a cross on my forehead. But I felt the oil dripping down toward my eye, so I had to close my eyes. And then I felt the priest put his hand on my forehead, and I was like, I don't remember you doing that to the man next to me, but I didn't want to open my eyes and risk getting oil because I wore contacts. So I kept my eyes closed, and the priest kept his hand on my head for what felt like forever. I started to get nervous. Why is he still standing here? I was embarrassed. I thought I must need a lot of prayers. And I started to get hot, which is rare for me back then. I started to get dizzy, and I knew if I did not open my eyes, I would pass out. So even though his hand was still on my forehead, I had to open my eyes. So I did. But the priest was not in front of me. In fact, he was 30 people down that line. He had baptized 30 people in the time that I had my eyes closed. The hand I felt on my forehead was not his. And there was only one explanation. It was the hand of God or the hand of Jesus. And I wanted to scream and shout, he's real. And I was certainly at the right place for that, but I was far too quiet and shy then, and I hated attention. So I turned quickly and looked at my family as if they had any idea what had happened. The funny thing is, though, I never told anybody about this until a couple of years ago. And this happened when I was 30. Why didn't I tell anyone? Judgment, fear that people wouldn't believe me. Or maybe I feared they would believe me and that I was bragging. I knew Jesus was real long before that experience, but after that, I knew him. Not the church Jesus, not the judgy, don't wear that Jesus, but I'm talking about a peaceful, loving presence like no other. The Jesus that sat beside me when I was 8, holding space for my survival. The Jesus that was by my side my entire life, reminding me I'm not alone, even though no one showed up for me. This story is true. What happened after that was not at all what I had expected or hoped for, because he didn't save my marriage. But he did save me in so many ways. And I kept that amazing experience to myself for over 20 years. But you know what? I'm done editing my soul and my story to gain anyone's approval. So, who am I to speak up and stand up for women who've been silenced, abused, mistreated, harassed, and worse? I ask you, who am I not to? I have stories and experiences and miracles and healings to share. I've been through it, and I got to the other side. I get messages and signs from Spirit and Source regularly, and some are just for me, but most are not. I know I'm here to start fires, to stir shit up. I'm here to make women remember I'm not just a voice or a face. I'm a wake-up call. I can be sharp. I can be cutting. I can be funny. I can be dead serious. I am a storm in heels. I am soft power and sacred rage all at the same time. And I love all of me. I am the woman who used to tiptoe, and now I kick down every door I walk through. My motto is do no harm and take no shit. I'm not one note or one dimensional. I am complex. I have layers and depth to me many people cannot relate to. I believe in a higher power, and I have gifts like claircognizance. I'm intuitive, and I can read minds sometimes. I also can read energy. And on the flip side, I'm logical and analytical. I love data, but I struggle with math. I can pick up on patterns quickly and easily. I see and hear things most people miss. I have the skills of a detective, and I make sure dots connect, and if they don't, then something is amiss and I'm going to investigate. I am creative and artistic. I am a dancer at heart. I am the kindest person you'll ever meet, but I'll also cut you out of my life quicker than you can blink if you screw me over. I am 4'10", and I am also 10 feet tall, all at the same time. I am strength, I am love, and I can also be hell. I am highly protected and guided, and I am most connected to source when I'm in nature or near water. I am also you. The woman listening, knowing she's not broken, just buried. The one who was told to shut up, sit still, and settle for a life you never wanted. That was never you. That was a lie. And today we burn down that lie. Who would you be if you were not conditioned to believe that silence and pleasing was safety? I know now, after all the healing work I've done, that I'm not to be managed, minimized, or mistreated. I am the star of my life, and I am taking center stage. I get to decide who is in my life and what kinds of relationships I will accept. Because I've walked through the fire. I've grappled with grief, and I've rebuilt from ashes no one ever saw fall. And you are the star of your life. So what is the title of your movie? Mine is Take No Shit, Do No Harm. Reverse that. Do no harm, take no shit. What is the story of your life? What is it saying about you? As women, we need to be supporting each other, calling each other higher, because we are more alike than we are different. And collectively, I know as women, we're exhausted. You're wondering, when is it your turn to win, to rest, to exhale, right? Well, I'll tell you when. It's when you decide to unbecome all the things you're not. When you decide to live your life for you on your terms, that's when it's your turn. And you get to decide when that is. This is where the performance ends and the power begins. I am co-hosting a retreat called Live Fully Intact with my friend, Judy Ryan. She's the CEO of LifeWork Systems, and you can find and sign up for the retreat on her website. I'll also put it on my website, but it's not there right now. 2 nights, 2 days, infinite return. Contact me at guidedbyjamie.com to learn how to sign up, because spots are limited, and it is the end of July is when this will be happening. And I want to say, stop waiting to become who you already are. The world needs your weird, your wild, your truth. You do have something to say, but you got to be the one to say it. No one else can do that for you. Spread your wings, little buttercup. And I don't know why that keeps coming up, but it came up. So it's for someone out there. So spread your wings. Thanks for listening. And I'll see you next time.
You've been listening to Something to Say with me, Jamie Shae, because silence is no longer an option. Catch me live every first and third Wednesday, 10 a.m. Pacific, on transformationtalkradio.com to learn how you too can rip off your proverbial muzzle. Silence was never your destiny. It's time to speak up. Subscribe to my channel to listen first when new episodes drop. Follow me on social media and visit guidedbyjamie.com to join the community that has something to say.